Wonderful, but my God, what a load of work it is. But you guys are worth it. Except when I give you the wrong stuff. That's what I get anyway. But I remember it's Microsoft. It's not me, it's them. Alright, so this was Central Tendency. There wasn't much from the book. A couple extra problems I slapped on. Anything give you guys grief from in here? Anything give means, medians, modes, weighted averages from histograms? Anything in here give you grief, give you agita? Anything you want to look at more closely? You couldn't get answers to jibe? Anything at all?
Yeah, because you do number 17.
I hope so.
Okay.
Take a look at it. 17 from the text, Robert, looks like I, J, and K.
Yeah.
Let's fire that thing up. All right, let's get the book. Materials, collaborative stat. Let me look at the page. 17, around page 87, which I think we have to go to page 97. Yeah, there we go. And we're doing 17, so scroll until we find it.
Because a lot of these ones didn't have the, all,
There it is. Okay, in a recent issue of that, 84 engineering conferences were announced. Okay, 84 conferences. 4 lasted 2 days. 36-3, 18-4, 19-5, 4-6, 1. I gotta write this down. It's too hard to look at. So they're saying let X be the length in days of engineering conference. Okay, so X length in days. Okay, and then I'm guessing F is frequency. Okay, it looks like they go anywhere from
2 to 9.
2 to 9, thank you. Yeah, 2, 3, 4, 6. And we got some frequencies. 4, 36, 18, 19, 4, 1, 1, and 1. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. All right. It asks you to do a bunch of stuff in there, which we'll do later on when we get to relative position. And I think we jumped down all the way to I, J, and K. I should have had you do, I don't know why I skipped over G. I did skip over G though, didn't I? Yeah, I did. Let's do G while we're here. I'll add that to the homework sheet. G. We can do the median as well. Is the median in there?
I think it was the mode.
There's the mode, for sure. I, J, and K are the mode, and then it says, what would you choose, the mean, median, or mode? I'm going to add the median too. This is number 17, 213, and G, and median. Okay, so let's do all three. Let's do the mean, the median, and the mode. So I is asking for the mode. So what is the mode?
The mostest.
The mostest. So what would that be?
3.
It would be 3. This is careful. Some students will say it's 36. 36 is the frequency, the highest frequency. But the data point itself is is going to be the mode. So that's why your mode is going to be 3, because it occurred 36 times. Beautiful. Beautiful. Now I probably didn't ask you to do this, and I didn't assign it for you, but let's do G, which is the mean. We'll do that in a minute. And let's also do a little extra problem, which is the median. Okay? Let's do all 3 of these bad boys. Let's do the median first. What's the median of this data set? What is the median of this data set? I hear over 4, Skylar. Why?
It's in the middle.
Good! So did you actually do...
Well, 36 plus 4 is 40.
Good for you. And if there's 84 total, that's what I said at the very beginning, there are 84, that means halfway is going to be 42 to 43. So you come in 40, 42 and 43 are both going to be in this 18. Does that make sense? Is that kind of, we can do the, JC, we can do the chop, but we don't have to. Because if you chop these guys and these guys, you're going to end up chopping into this 18. So there's a couple ways you can do it without having to actually do the physical chopping. We're going to use technology today too, which will prevent us from having to do all this chopping. But the way I just looked at it, if there are 84 of them represented, the halfway point is between 42 and 43, both of which are in here. Okay, you can always do the chopping. That always gets you the job done, but the median is going to be 4. There we go, right there. The median's going to be 4. These are all in days. 3 days, 4 days. Beautiful. Let's do the mean as well, just because letter J asks you for the mean. And that's my bad for not actually listing the mean on there. So, how would we calculate the average number of days for one of these conferences? What do we have to do? Think GPA. Think, what else did we do in class? We did the GPA, we did the keys. What do we have to do?
Multiply XF.
We've got to have the XF column. We've got to have an XF column. We have to have an XF column because we have to not only count the data, but also how often the data occurred. That's very, very important. So we've got 4 conferences that lasted 2 days each. That's 8 total days worth for those 4. We've got 36 at 3, which is that 108 or 118? 108. We've got 4 at 18, that should be 72. 5 at 19, 95. Did I do that right? 6 at 4 is 24. 7, 8, 9. And that's going to be how many days are represented in all of these conferences. So they're out of 84.
No, I have no idea what numbers.
Oh, I don't either. I'm going to add it in a second. So 108 days happened among the 36 that each lasted 3 and so forth and so on. Let's add them up real quick. Sum of XF. What do we get here? 116, 188. That would be 288 minus 5 would be 283. 283-ish, 300. Yeah, somebody do it exactly.
331.
Thank you. I start rounding off. 300. 331. That's how many days are spent in these engineering conferences. So how do we find the average then? Divided by how many conferences there are. It's days per conference. That's days. Here are how many conferences there are. It's average days per conference. So you have to divide by how many conferences there are. That's how many days there are. So for the average, you're going to do that sum of the XFs divided by the sum of the Fs, which is 331 days per 84 conferences. That comes out to almost exactly 4, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's damn close.
4.00001.
Oh my goodness! I'm going to call it 4. 3.9 is fine. It's damn close to 4, exactly. We'll call it 4. We'll call it 4. Fair enough so far? So now we have all 3 numbers we can actually answer question J with. If you were planning an engineering conference, which would you choose and why? If you had to base the next conference off of this data, which would you use? And realize too that you can use more than one. Tell me if you were the person in charge of getting people to come to your event, i.e. you wanted to make money from their registration and also create a situation where, conferences are great things, you can trade ideas, so you want to get as many people as possible to your conference. Which would you use? I gotta vote for mode. And I kind of gave part of an answer when I said you want to get as many people as possible to your conference. So I would think you'd want to make sure that your conference lasted at least 3 days, because it seems like most of them do already, and I'm assuming most of them do already because that's a very popular length of time for the conferences, I'm guessing. Good, 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 good. Anybody say median or average?
I did, I said mean.
Mean, tell me why, Jen?
Just because it was the average.
It's the balance.
Yeah.
It's the share, if you will. It's the share. 9's too long, 2's too short, average is share. Good, good. I don't think it would be wise to use these max values. So like a 9-day conference, it would be awesome to go to a 9-day conference. Why wouldn't it be very realistic?
Because not everybody's gonna use that time. I don't know. It's like for how many conferences only last 3 days? Why would you?
Wake up 9.
Yeah.
Well, these are engineers, right? They're engineers, which means they have to work.
So you can put 3 conferences amount of time.
Take that 1, exactly. And chances are they probably can't go to 3 because they have, I go to a math conference every single year in the spring. So I have to like reschedule classes, reschedule office hours, reschedule picking up my son from school. It's a big logistical pain in the butt to do it. Totally worth doing because of the stuff I present at them every year and I learn stuff at them every year. They're fantastic. But it is a logistical nightmare. Now multiply that by 3. And that's why I don't think we're going 9s and 8s and 7s very much. So the average would be that share. Good, I like that. I like that. So we go with mode. A vote for mode because it's the most common one right now anyway. So 3 days is the most common one according to, it's twice as likely as the second place one, which is 4. Okay, and the fifth place one. As a matter of fact, it looks like the lion's share of the conferences last between 3 and 5 days. That's what? That's like 20, 20, and 36. That's 56 of the 84. It's about 3/4 of the conferences last between those 3 days. How come? Why do you think? This is, I think, question, yeah, this is question K. Why 3 to 5 is so common?
Logistics.
Say that again?
Logistics.
And why, yes, I agree, Hattie, give me more concrete if you want, anybody. Logistically, why does that work pretty well? Do you know what, has anybody ever been to one of these conferences? Not an engineering conference, but a conference, like a student conference? When do they usually start?
Fridays.
Fridays or Thursdays, and they'll go to Saturday or Sunday. Because that way you pick up some of the weekend, so you make travel a little bit easier, at least on one end. The math ones always start on Thursday, and will stay until Sunday. And that gives you a 2-day conference-ish. You get Friday and Saturday, essentially. And travel on Thursday and travel on Sunday. So you can either call it a 2 or a 3-day conference. But at least if you wrap it partly over a weekend, it doesn't interfere with work all that much. That's one of the reasons of 3 to 5. 5's a little bit long. So that's one reason, is logistical due to travel. Anybody think of a different reason? Why 3 to 5 might be the most common, which it clearly is.
I just don't know who would want to go to one of these conferences for 9 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. Suppose it's in Hawaii.
Well, yeah, but if you have to work the whole time.
If you have to work, oh, well, it's...
Kind of works.
I've seen my colleagues from other schools at these math conferences, and most of the time they're at the coast. They're at Lincoln City or they're up in Skamania. And I'm there and I'm presenting 2 and 3 times at these things. And there's people out just walking on the beach the entire time. And I'm like, yeah, they're at the conference, but they're not at the conference. So there's an interesting dynamic there. Are you actually going to learn something, or are you just going to get off of work for 2 days? and get
Would it
paid?
really be effective to cram all the information into 9 days?
Depends on how much information there is. And that's a great point. This is what I was just talking to Jackie when she was in here with Math 65 right before here. And I was lamenting how much stuff is in that course. You could design the conference better. Rather than trying to cram a year's worth of stuff in 9 days,
Spread it out and have
you spread it out, you know?
conferences?
Yeah, no, I don't agree. But the problem with conferences are, they often are cram sessions. They very often are. I give a presentation for 2 hours, hour and a half to 2 hours, and I'll do a couple of those over the course of a weekend. But that day there are 5 session times. So I'm running from one to the other, just trying to absorb anything I possibly can. And part of that is the fact that these conferences bring together people from all over the country, let alone the world. So logistically, you have to kind of make things go quickly to get information across. Robert, is this answering the question to your satisfaction? I mean, I wanted to make sure we got your question answered.
Yeah, if you do the median again, it kind of...
Sure, absolutely.
Done that.
I like having the distribution here out like this chart out like this. As a matter of fact, I'm going to add part A to that too, because that's the first thing I did was that part A. Yeah, thank you. So basically, the median is the geographic halfway point.
Okay.
One way to do it is to write all of these out with the frequencies of occurrence. So there are 4 2s. 2, 2, 2, 2.
Okay.
36 3s. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 36 times. And you get them all in a row, there's going to be 84 of them.
Okay.
And then JC comes up with a pen, and I come up with a pen, and we start chopping, chop, 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 and we get down to the middle 2 values. Now the question is, what are those middle 2 values? Now you could do it that way. Another way to do it is, there are 84 data points in this chart.
Right.
So you can chop in the chart. Chop these 4 off. Okay?
Yeah.
Now you gotta chop the top 4 off as well. So chop, 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 and chop one of those and leave 3 behind.
Okay.
So far? Now chop 36. So if I chop all 36 of those, I gotta chop them. Now I'm down to 33. I chop 19 more. Now I'm down to 24, thank you. And I've got to chop 12 more. And when I chop 12 more, boom, I leave 6 behind in the middle here. Now, I don't have to chop anymore. Because as I chop, they're all gonna be in this particular class, which is 4.
Okay.
And that's how we knew the median was 4.
All right. I see.
Is that fair? So it's the same chop, but it happens within the graph itself, or the distribution itself, so you don't really have to.
Okay.
Is it fair? Good? Decent?
That makes
Good. Thank you, glad. I apologize again for I should have had you calculate the mean and the median. I'll add both of those to the problem, because it asks you to refer to them. It's nice if you actually have them to refer to. And it's nice because both the mean, the median, and the mode all refer to that 3 to 5 data range. It's kind of cool. 75% of the data is within 3 to 5. Good. What else we got? Anything else give you grief? And percentage for...
Number 2A.
2A! Let's pop up and take a look at it. And I think this is going to be the one, Skylar, one of the ones I made a video for. Let me just see though real quick. I went too far. It's page 87. Yep, this will be one of the ones I have a video for. It just didn't link for whatever reason in the homework page. Okay, median age for U.S. African Americans currently is 30.1 years. For U.S. Caucasians, 36.6 years. Median age, which means what?
Geographical center of your...
Yes! Get every Caucasian in America, make them stand in a line from youngest to oldest. Do this quickly, because as you're doing this, people are being born and dying. So do it very quickly. Find the middle of that line. That middle person is 36.6 years of age. Do the same thing for African Americans, very quickly, because they're being born and dying at just like the same rate I'm assuming that Caucasians are. I don't know about that, I'm making this up now. 30.1 years. Okay. Based upon this information, give 2 reasons why the African American median age could be lower than the Caucasian American age. I gave one in the video. I'm curious to see what you guys say. Give 1 reason.
There's more African American children.
Exactly what I said in my video, Skylar. I said at this point in time, there are more African American children than there are Caucasian children. I don't know if this is correct. It said give a reason why it might be the case. That's what I said. I said at this snapshot in time, maybe there are more young African Americans than there are Caucasian Americans. There might also be fewer African Americans in general. Remember the median isn't necessarily based on the same number of people. It's based on the middle of that line. You see what I'm saying there? So if we had more children and fewer adults, even if the African American line was half as long as the Caucasian American line, the median would definitely be lower. Does that kind of make sense? I saw a hand go up. Patterson, was that you? No, Kate, go.
Kind of off of what you said, but it's of what do you count as white and what do you count as African American?
Sure, I'm assuming the definitions are well defined, but they're probably not as clear as I'm making them out to be.
Because the Swedish would probably count themselves as white, but as far as
Yeah, I think so.
so, but
I'm guessing that's right. That's who thought of Delaware.
it's a wider
Fairly
population.
white state. Well, yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're
It's a
saying.
wider population
I
than
see
those
what
who
you're.
count
I get where you're going with this now. Right. Where you have highly ethnocentric populations like Swedish or Italian American, German American that are. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So maybe it is kind of we're talking about the same thing. There's more classifications under Caucasian than African American. Gotcha. Which I think would agree the same. I think that kind of says the same thing. Is fair enough? There's one reason. That's the first thing I thought of, Skylar. Maybe at this point in time, there are more young African Americans than Caucasian Americans. Anybody think of something different? That's the first thing that popped into my mind. Michael?
Would the amount of population wouldn't change the median necessarily?
Not necessarily,
Because there'd be more young and more old.
What?
So
For Caucasians?
for both, I mean,
Potentially.
if you add more people, there's potential for it to go either way.
Sure.
But you can't generally say that it goes up or down.
Right.
So the only 2 possibilities are that there's more younger children and that there's less.
Fewer older members of the population. Yeah, for sure. And who knows why? I'm not even saying that's the correct reasoning. But all I know is that middle person is 6 years younger. Now, whether or not 6 years is even arguably important is another question. But that's one way to explain it. Go ahead, Kate.
I was just going to say, in different parts of the world, like in Africa, for example, they have children much younger.
There we go. A
That
cultural
would
difference,
sway
perhaps.
The average age.
That could be a cultural thing.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact I've read many news reports that the American population is having children at later ages now. Now that's the American population, not broken down by race or ethnicity. Just the American population now has kids. In the 50s, people were basically having kids in their 20s. Me and Jenna had Max when I was 35, she was 32, and that's not unusual anymore to have children later. So that could very well be. Maybe there's an ethnic thing underlying all that, where there's a weighted average of that years weighted until we have kids, and African Americans on the low end and Caucasians on the high end. I don't know. It's a total possibility, though. Good. I like it.
Well, also a death rate, with.
Well, I think that's what they're getting into in B and C, if I remember correctly, Jen. Let's get to it.
Okay.
Here it is. Does the lower median age for African Americans necessarily mean they die younger than Caucasian? Does it necessarily mean it? Not necessarily. Could it possibly mean it? Of course. Of course it could mean it. If you have African Americans that are dying at an earlier age, or a higher rate, I should say earlier age, a higher rate, you can make the assumption, and this can be checked with data from the US Census Bureau, that it's the older ones that are dying off more frequently, therefore leaving behind a younger population, which would then shift the median younger. That's one explanation, isn't it? That's what you were getting at, Jen, I think. That doesn't necessarily mean that's happening. It could just be a snapshot indicated by what Schuyler and Kate are talking about, just the younger populace in this particular time. You can see it over the course of every 5 years, see how it changes. Fair? Robert, what's on your mind?
Oh,
Just taking it in.
I think it's just tough to come up with.
Oh, it's completely impossible. Off of this?
Yeah,
Off of these two statistics, it is impossible.
I think it's absurd, actually.
To even try?
Right.
Well, the idea of the problem
Yeah.
is not so much to give a certified answer, it's to look at it from different ways. Because so often, they'll put this in a news report, and then say, you see? See what's going on?
That's what I mean. Well, that's why I don't
It's
watch.
completely ludicrous to say that. And this problem attacks your thinking and say, could it be something else?
Yeah.
That's why I like it. That's why I like it. How might it be possible for African Americans and Caucasians to die at approximately the same age, but for the median age of Caucasians to be higher? I think we've answered this over and over again already talking about this. It might have nothing to do with death rate. It might just simply be the time snapshot. Now, what's on your mind over there?
Well, no, it was just what we were saying, like, they're just like a younger population.
Exactly. It might have nothing to do with when they're dying. It's just how they're living right now.
Yeah.
I would love to see this over time, trend line over time, and see, then we might have something. Then we've got more than just a single data point or two. We've actually got a historical trend and patterns. So I'm with you, sister. I'm with you. How's it go?
Isn't life expectancy for like African Americans going up too, though?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, like, okay. So
I don't know that off the top of my head. But that can be checked, can't it?
Yeah.
That can be checked if life expectancy is going up. Now, you gotta be careful too with the variables. Life expectancy and death rate might not be 100% perfectly correlated. Just because someone has the potential or shows the trend culturally of living longer does not mean necessarily that the entire population has a high percentage of doing that. But I like what you're saying, and I don't know what the answer is. I know for years African Americans had a much lower life expectancy.
Yeah.
But it was due to a number of factors that I think since have been brought under control. I think. Now, the question I have too right back at you is, are Caucasians also living longer than we were? No, we're not. Emphatically shaking your head no.
Our generation will be the first generation to not outlive our parents.
Interesting. Well, now, you gotta be careful too, because we can't turn into Yoda. I mean, eventually you can't be like,
Well,
I'm 927 and I feel great. I mean,
numbers would correlate with that.
but the question is it, I would love to see the numbers on that. I would love to see that, because I want to know if it's a drop, a leveling, and if either the drop or the leveling was within an acceptable swing. Here's why I say that. Hattie, thank you for bringing this up. I didn't know that. But here's why I bring that up. And I bring up the same thing every time I hear something about, this is the first year we had no accidents on the highway, blah, blah. And I always think to myself, that's a very interesting argument, and I trust the data if I can get hold of it. I never can. So here's why. Essentially what you're saying, Hattie, is you've got number of generations on this axis. And generation is, I think it's, I don't exactly know how a generation is defined, every 40 years maybe or something like that, something along those lines. And then here's life expectancy on the vertical. So what I'm hearing is, you got a first generation, second generation, third generation, fourth generation, nth generation, And essentially it was doing something along these lines. And then this will be the first year where it does something like that, where it actually drops. So maybe I should draw this a little bit better. Okay, that's actually leveling off here, make it drop. Something along those lines. There are all kinds of ways you can say it's dropping, and there's all kinds of ways you can say that it might not be dropping. It's based on experimental error. Now clearly, if you look at it, it looks like it's leveling off. Let's make it look like it drops. There. Boom. You can also create what's called a best fit line through these data points that would look something like this. In 105, we did this, one of the first things we did in Math 105 last term. And then what you can do is, you can create what are called the residuals off of that line, which are the distances away from the line. And then you create what's called a confidence interval around those points, which would look like this, something along these lines. Now, I'm doing all of this without actually having the data, so this is suspect. But this is what you would do. And you see how all of those points actually fell inside what are called the confidence intervals? That means that you can't arguably prove they're in any place in the interval. It could be higher than you think or lower than you think it is. The only way I would 100% believe that it's below what it was supposed to be, Hattie, is if it fell something like down here. Then it's far enough down where I go, you know what? Okay, it's lower than it should have been. But I have to see the actual data to crunch these numbers. I can't do it in my head. It's calculus to do that. But we could do it.
The info came from CDC. It was talking about specifically obesity, tobacco, and alcohol-related deaths, and the rates in which they are increasing in proportion to the population.
That is so sad to hear that. And that's an argument I have heard for decades now. The obesity rate in America is climbing to the roof, and I don't. Some of that you have to also question how obesity is being defined. That's one thing you have to be concerned. It's the whole autistic question. Now autism is 1 in 100, not 1 in 150. Yes, because now you're classifying Asperger's as autism, which means necessarily the percentage just has to go up. Is obesity been defined the same way over the years? I don't know the answer to that question. I'm asking you because I don't know the answer. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot either, Hattie. I love the fact that you're checking this stuff in the CDC. That's where I get a lot of my data from, is the CDC. But you have to almost check it historically to make sure they haven't bumped out the definition of obesity to be wider. Because if you bump the definition of obesity to be wider, no pun intended, if you bump it out to be wider, then you necessarily have to increase the percentages because you're picking up more people. You see what I'm getting at? And that's nefarious. That's nefarious statistics. Because, how about I use that word right? Nefarious? Nasty? I think I used that word right. Sounds right. Nefarious. Suspicious, good, good. Yeah, it's definitely suspicious. Because then you're trying to prove a point. You're trying to prove obesity rates are up by stacking the deck almost, rather than actually measuring it. Now, if they're measuring it, this is another question too. How do they measure obesity rates? They use BMI, one of my least favorite measurements in all of medicine. Why do I hate BMI? Why do I hate BMI, Skylar? You might not hate BMI. You might think it's okay. That's okay too. It uses two measurements, your height and your weight, and it constructs the entire thing from that. I am borderline overweight by BMI. My BMI is 24.7 upon last check. 25, BMI 25, you're borderline overweight. It's because I'm dense. I'm a dense, it's not just the hair, and not just the rocket. I'm a dense, I get in the water, I sink. And because I'm dense, I'm heavier than BMI says I should be for my height. It ignores my body fat percentage. It ignores my body surface area. BSA, great measurement where they actually try to calculate how much skin you have. It ignores all those things, where obesity might be interested in looking at BSA, or body fat percentage, which I'm sure are also used as an obesity measure, I would hope. So, question the definitions. I mean, the math in this class is so trivial, but the definitions, how we define things, is so amazingly slippery, or can be slippery and misleading something. Thank you, Hattie, that was awesome. I wasn't expecting to go that route today. How the hell did we get to talking about this? Oh yeah, it was African Americans and the Caucasians lady friends. Hot damn, that was a good discussion. I didn't get that far in the YouTube video. I didn't get quite that deep. Cool? Speaking of that, let's take 5. Let me go downstairs and fix all these links real quick. Then we'll run down here and check them. All right, take your